This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
Tangents and Squee continue all the way to episode 211 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Winds in the east, mist coming in, like somethingeth brewing and about to begin. Can't put me finger on what lies in store, but I feel what's to happen all happened before. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you join us. Let's start off like you do every week with the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bethlehem.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello, and nicely done, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because I can do an accent just about as well as Dick Van Dyke can. So. Oh, no offense to Dick Van Dyke. I'm sure I'll be, my inner Brit will probably come even further forth as I'm sitting in the theater watching the new movie.
Yes.
So. But we will get to that. So first up, we need to do the news. And first we need to start with some 10 o'clock news, unfortunately. So actress and comedian and director and really kind of Hollywood legend, Penny Marshall has passed away. Yes. So she died at the age of 75. She's got quite an interesting, like if you went to our IMDb page, you would see quite a interesting collection of things. Because I mean, it depends on who you are, I think, and what generation and how you grew up. So I always have known her as an actress, not necessarily a director, because I grew up watching TV Land.
Same here.
Yeah, reruns. So her appearances on Happy Days, which spun off onto Laverne and Shirley.
Yep.
And everybody knows Shamil, Shamaso, Hashtag Incorporated. Yeah. But she was a very successful director too.
Yes.
She directed movies like Big, A League of Their Own, Preacher's Wife. She was the first woman to direct a movie that grossed $100 million with Big, and then she did it again with A League of Her Own. She said she liked directing because she didn't have to wear makeup or get her hair done.
Can't say I don't blame her.
She just didn't like having to get up early.
Again, can't really blame her for that, can we?
And of course, she does have that hilarious appearance. I don't want to necessarily call it a cameo, but appearance alongside her brother, Gary Marshall, in Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
So, but yeah, she's a lot of the movies she's known for directing. I've never actually seen, as I cower in fear. If somebody goes, "What? You've never seen Big?" Sorry.
I don't think I've seen Big either. I've seen A League of Their Own.
I've never seen that either.
Big is good.
I know there's no crying in baseball, but that's about it.
The only creepy thing about Big was that fortune-telling machine for me. Everything else was okay.
Go out and about, and anytime you see a Zoltar machine, you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, the Zoltar machine kind of ranks up with the machine from the one Doctor Who episode with the space whale.
Yeah.
Oh,
the voting machine?
Yes, the voting machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little bit. So. Oh my! So go watch Big or League of Their Own, or even an episode of Laverne and Shirley.
Yep.
If you're inclined, have a Pepsi with milk in it. I've never tried it, but apparently that was a thing she really loved.
Yeah, I mean, to each his own, but I don't think I would ever try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could just make one and just pour it out,
Take a little sample and then do your health.
Yes, exactly. So, all right. Let's move on to some convention news and kind of keeping in the retro TV, at least for this first convention announcement. PopCon Fort Wayne, which is coming up very quickly, has announced their final guest, considering the convention is in 2 weeks. So something like that. They are going to have Butch Patrick, better known as Eddie Munster, from the Munsters TV series.
Cool.
PopCon Fort Wayne is kind of turning into a new and retro kind of guest list, where it's like the voice actors are all new hip stuff, and then the live action people are retro. Because that sounds better than old school. And then Salt Lake Fan X has started announcing guests, and they have announced Mike Coulter, aka Luke Cage.
Nice.
From the Marvel Netflix MCU universe.
That's getting long.
Yeah, so whatever you want to call it, it's still part of the MCU. Those Netflix shows that are getting canceled. He's out of a job, so he's free at the moment. Unless he gets new employment. So.
I'm gonna laugh at tomorrow and announce, hey, he's gonna be in this movie or show.
Yeah.
I have 2 years or more to kill before he can come back on screen.
Yep.
At least that's what I've supposedly read.
Yeah. I was having a conversation about that with my chiropractor the other day because he's a big MCU fan. So that's a conversation for another time. Although we talked about it ad nauseum at some point, a little bit anyway. Our opinions on the matter. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll save that soapbox for another day.
Yep. So moving on to more of award season. The SAG Awards have announced their nominees.
I always laugh at that name, the SAG.
Yeah.
Screen Actors Guild abbreviation.
Yeah. It's like, you wouldn't SAG if you just sat up straight, use better posture.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've never had good posture.
That's why I go with the chiropractor. It's pretty much a lot of repeats from the award nominations that we've talked about the last few weeks. So we, as we get closer and closer to Oscars, the Oscar nominations, we could probably expect to see a lot of these. Obviously not the TV ones, but as far as movies, because the SAG is TV and movie. So outstanding performance by male actor in a leading role, Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. Outstanding performance by female actor in a leading role, Emily Blunt for Mary Poppins Returns. Outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture, Black Panther and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Nice.
So,
there's some stiff competition on this list, I'll tell you.
Yeah, really. Outstanding action performance by a stunt ensemble, Daredevil, Marvel's Daredevil. An outstanding performance by a stunt ensemble in a motion picture, because the other one was for a comedy drama series, TV series. For stunt ensemble in a motion picture, all three Marvel movies that came out this year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can we say three-way tie?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, like I wouldn't know what to choose for that one.
I'd be like, like, do I have to vote in this category?
Yeah, can I abstain?
Can I vote 3 times?
Yeah, really. Like, I either need to vote 3 times or not at all.
Yeah, because which
or
one
draw a name out of a hat.
Yeah, because which
have
one
my
edges
dog picked.
the other one out? You know, because there's all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they were all so good for different reasons. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp was really cool, you know, because of, you know, the big and little stuff. I mean, a lot of that was CGI, but still, you got stunt performers. And then Infinity War was just bonkers. And then Black Panther was just bonkers. So,
yeah. About time you showed up.
Yeah.
Where have you been all this time?
Yeah. So, can I just say that, and I hope this continues going into the Oscars, because, you know, those are the granddaddies for movies. But I do hope that Black Panther continues to get some love in those bigger categories.
Yes.
And not just the technical categories.
Yes.
Like, so far, so good. We've been doing.
Yep. And same with Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, I'm seeing A Star Is Born for some of the other stuff. So if you're giving love to A Star Is Born, you got to give it to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. I fully expect Rami Malek to get a Best Actor nod for the Academy Awards. Definitely, for sure. So, but I just love the fact that, you know, like Black Panther just keeps popping up on like every awards list, and not just in those technical categories where our favorite things tend to get relegated to.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if Black Panther's got to be the one that leads the way as far as getting, you know, superhero movies more mainstream,
and the tide to turn.
Yeah, to make I'm totally down for that. Black Panther was awesome, so I will not complain.
Nope.
It was a good movie.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, listen to me, Academy. I'm watching. And then speaking of Netflix related things, Netflix has released kind of like, not necessarily a trailer per se, but it's kind of like a behind the scenes like teaser thing, which shows, you know, that shows some of the history and then also some of the behind the scenes, and we see some of the new puppets. Then there's stuff from the original Dark Crystal with Chip Henson and all that. But anyway, so there's a kind of a behind the scenes teaser thing for Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and then they have announced a cast. Well, castless. They've not actually like said who each person is voicing. They've just like broke them up into like the character groupings, because there's the Gelflings and then the Skeksis and then the Mystics. But there are some big names coming to voice this series, including Helena Bonham Carter, Eddie Izzard, Toby Jones,
Katrina Balfe from
Jason Isaacs, Keegan Michael Key, Simon Pegg, and Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
So
it's all connected.
Yep. So if you there's still no like release date announcements. It's just gonna be sometime next year. It'll be on Netflix. So you've got time to rewatch Dark Crystal multiple times probably before this gets released. So, and just keep in mind, if you have not been paying that much attention, this actually takes place before the events in the Jim Henson movie. So this is like a prequel.
Yeah. And if you do watch The Dark Crystal, it's a little bit old, and it's not for the younger kiddos, a little bit older, or have mom and dad kind of preview first and base judgment, because
this isn't the Muppet movie.
Oh no. I remember watching it when I was younger, and it's just like, Ooh, I probably could have waited a couple more years.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking the same with like my sister.
Yeah,
We
like-
watched it when we were pretty young, and like,
Yeah.
now that when I watch it on
Some
its
of the
own, I'm like,
scenes with the
should we have seen this yet?
crew was a little. I could have waited and spared myself some nightmares.
Yeah. It's like in the darkness scale of like Henson movies,
This is
you
dark.
have like Muppet movie up towards the top where it's like happy, Muppets, Kermit and his piggy and all that. And then you have like Labyrinth, and then you have like the Dark Crystal.
Yes. Yeah. Labyrinth's kind of the in between, and Dark Crystal's other end of the spectrum. You got it.
So bear that in mind.
Just FYI. Little PSA.
Yeah. Which means I need to bust out my copy of the Dark Crystal. I've got it.
Same here.
I'm not sure exactly which DVD holder it's in, but I'll find it.
I have it.
Really need to get
Okay.
labels on those. Easier to find things. Personal problems.
Yep.
So that is exciting. Very exciting. And then speaking of movies, as we're recording this Tuesday evening, this Thursday evening, and I need to double check the time. I think we're doing it at 8, not 7. But Chauncey and I are going to be on Spark of Madness again on Thursday. So if you want to catch the live stream where we're talking about Christmas Vacation.
Nice.
So unwrap your cat. Yeah. Get your moose mug and your subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club and tell Cousin Eddie to buzz off.
Yep. And check this tree for flying rodents.
Yes. Before you plug it in.
Yep.
So that should be exciting. That's one of Chauncey's favorites. That's right up there with Home Alone as far as Christmas movies. He's already watched Home Alone twice.
Oh wow! I haven't seen it at all yet this year, and look at me.
Let's see. Home Alone twice, Christmas Vacation twice, White Christmas twice.
I haven't watched anything yet.
Same. That, like, that,
Other
like, I
than
keep,
when he had the first time he had Home Alone on, which was last week. I caught. Well, once I came out, once we were done recording.
When you're decorating I'm decorating the Christmas tree and that with the folks, it's kind of like, well, let's toss some of that on and.
Yeah, we tend to get distracted if we do that, so we turn on music instead.
same.
And otherwise, we'll be too busy looking at the tree or at the TV, and then stuff gets dropped.
Well, you don't need broken ornaments.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. I think at this point, I'm just going to wait till a week from today for Christmas, and I'll watch Die Hard. Since there's no Doctor Who Christmas special, I'll watch Die Hard instead.
There you go.
No Doctor Who. Well, it's time to watch Hans Gruber fall off and Nakatomi Plaza Tower. So
There you go.
Oh my. Let's see. Moving on to feedback. So we got some feedback from Shalane.
Yay.
So speaking of award season, she says she knew Mary Poppins Returns would get nominated. I totally agree. I'm not surprised. Obviously, because the original Mary Poppins got a lot of awards as well. So it's makes sense that Mary Poppins Returns would at least get nominated. We'll see about wins, but at least get nominated, and it'll probably get nominated for some Oscars as well. So because they had musicals, these awards, they love musicals, they love Disney. It's a Disney musical. It probably helps that Lin-Manuel Miranda is involved too. He's kind of a golden child. So that probably doesn't hurt. And then talking about the Avengers Endgame trailer, she says she remembers how we said the next Avengers was supposed to take place 5 years after Infinity War. She says it looks like it takes place days or weeks after Infinity War. I would say it is both. I would say that it probably starts right after Infinity War.
Yeah, my thing is like the first half be like right after, and then maybe the last half. Or
yeah. I think there's gonna be some jumping around just because some time travel is definitely gonna be involved.
Oh yeah.
So
yes.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
yeah. I think there's going to be some timey-wimey involved. And one thing we didn't mention when talking about the trailer was that shot with Banner looking at pictures of people. And depending on how, again, you need to take everything that you see in these trailers. After the Infinity War trailer, we've learned that everything we see in the trailer is not necessarily the truth.
Yep.
But, excuse me. Because if you stop on that particular shot in the trailer, you see Banner looking at pictures, and the most prominent one you see is a picture of Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look down the line, there's a picture of Shuri. Mm-hmm. Now, at this point, we don't know exactly when that takes place in the movie. So as far as we know, or as far as Banner knows, at this point, he probably doesn't know whether those people have actually been dusted or not. He just knows they're missing, would be my guess.
And then just the scene, too, when
when
Black Widow meets up with Hawkeye. We don't know, because the look on Hawkeye's face is like he's been through the ringer, so who knows if his family made it.
Oh, I would almost guarantee that Hawkeye's family got dusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like a man whose family has been dusted.
Yes.
I think the Shuri thing is probably a red herring, just because Bruce was there in Wakanda.
Yes,
so he should know one way or the other what Shuri's status is. And supposedly the Russo brothers have said that Shuri is fine. She did not get dusted.
Okay.
So it may just be Bruce looking at the status of just everybody, regardless of whether they know for sure whether they're missing or not. That scene potentially could just be a falsie planted in the trailer.
Could be. Or with Tony being MIA out in space, surviving head honcho of S.H.I.E.L.D. is asking for a status report, and it lands on Bruce's shoulders to do said report.
Yeah. And that could be it too. He could just be going through a list of anybody tied to the Avengers, got to Peter, and hasn't gotten to Shuri yet to, check the box saying, still with us. As her status. He could just be got to Peter and been like, oh crap, Peter is just a kid. Like, I don't even know this kid. He's like, I haven't really met him yet, but I haven't got to know him yet, but he's a kid. He probably just saw it like Peter's face and saw how old he was and was like, oh my goodness, this sucks.
Dang you, Stark.
Yeah. But according to the Russos, Shuri survived, which is a good thing because, as far as the comic books are concerned, she has taken up the mantle of Black Panther. So with T'Challa gone, it would make sense that she would stick around and take up the mantle of the Black Panther in his stead. That, and she's so smart. They need someone like her, especially until Tony gets back. They need someone with her like mechanical genius to help them out, I think. So we'll see. Again, like we said, you got to take everything in these trailers now that we've realized that they will blatantly lie to us in these trailers.
Yes.
So
we won't know anything's real or not real until next April.
Yes. Exactly.
We can speculate and theorize as much as we want.
Yeah. And probably be wrong.
And Chrissy just shared something, FanX for next spring. The voices of Aladdin and Jasmine are supposed
Cool.
to be coming to FanX.
Sweet.
Yep.
Nice.
So Scott Weinger and Linda Larkin.
Cool.
Yep.
I've met Linda. She's very nice. And then Shalane's last comment is essentially something we mentioned last week when we were talking about things getting nominated, and she said she has also noticed that sometimes the same film will get nominated in multiple categories, like song and score, or sometimes the same studio will get nominated multiple times in a category, because like we had a Disney and Pixar films, in the animation category. So they just do what they want when it comes to these nominations. At the end of the day, they just announce them and we go, okay. We look and see if anything we care about gets nominated. And if it is, we're like, yay. And then if it's not, it's like, okay. Thank you, Shalane, for your feedback. So, and anyone else is welcome to send us feedback. Although this is the last show of the year, so we won't get to your feedback till next year. But if you want to send in feedback,
That's. I know I've been saying it, but that's
sit
crazy.
on it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We can sit on it for a little bit.
Next year's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, really.
Literally, exactly 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When I think about it.
Yep. Oh, that being said, let's move on to this week's main topic, which is everybody's favorite nanny, who is practically perfect in every way. Mary Poppins. Oh, I love this movie.
Yeah,
I've never
watched it on Sunday, and I forgot how fast it moved for a 2-hour movie, and every scene. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, the music tends to stick with you, but then even the non-music stuff tends to. You watch it and you're like, oh yeah. But I mean, most people know the Disney Mary Poppins movie, 1964. Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke. An amazing blend of live action and animation, which was, revolutionary, I think, at the time.
Wasn't it one of the first ones that did that?
Well, no, Walt had been doing live action combined with animation since the very beginning, since, he started his first animation studio with Laugh-O-Gram Studios back in the late teens, early 20s.
That's how much I know.
Yeah. He did these shorts of like Alice, not necessarily Alice in Wonderland, but he had this girl who played Alice, and she would go on these adventures, and they would film her essentially, and then animate around her. But yeah, no, he had been doing live action combined with animation for quite a while, but not anything to this scale. Not a feature length motion picture. With all the crazy colors and everything. You can look them up. I'm sure they're probably on YouTube. Just look up, Disney Alice shorts, and you can see the early beginnings of what would eventually become, allow Walt to do things like the Jolly Holiday sequence.
And this led the way to Bedknobs and Broomsticks with Angela Lansbury.
Yep. Exactly. So, this is just, again, this is one of those movies that has just always existed in my mind. I can't remember the first time I saw it. It's just always been, and that's probably because I grew up on Disney movies.
Same.
So,
Same.
yeah. Although I don't know if we ever really owned Mary Poppins. I don't remember owning it. I own it now on DVD. I have an anniversary edition that's at this point, because now it came out in 1964. I think the edition I have is probably the 30. No, it's not that old. Probably the 40th anniversary edition, maybe 45th anniversary edition. So it may be older now, maybe 35th. I don't know. It's in the other room. I know there's newer anniversary editions now. I think it's the thing. It's like, it's just, and if you've seen the movie Saving Mr. Banks, which came out several years ago, which is essentially the story of this movie and how it came to be. And, Walt wanted to adapt Mary Poppins it took him 20 plus years to finally have this movie be made. The books were favorites of his daughters. And he really wanted to adapt them for them, and just P.L. Travers would just not have it at all. So there were things that she did, once they finally got it off the ground, there were things that she did, like supposedly she did, she was forecasting Julie Andrews fairly early on. Julie was like Walt's first pick, and essentially almost cornered her backstage when she was doing Camelot on Broadway, and wanted to ask, went and asked her if she would play Mary Poppins, and at the time she was like, well, I'm flattered, but I'm expecting a baby. And Walt was like, that's fine, we'll wait. Because he really wanted Julie Andrews to play Mary Poppins. So they waited. They waited until Julie had her baby. So. I've got like the IMDb trivia page. Pull it up. So, obviously, if you are familiar with the books, there's, I think it's 6 or 8 books actually in the series, and this film is kind of an amalgamation of a couple of them, several of them. And there's some significant differences, but not anything that I think harms the film at all. Because like there's a third Banks child in the books. It's not just the 2, there's 3. But a lot of the stories I know about Mary Poppins, I actually know from Richard Sherman, from hearing him talk when Chauncey and we went on our first Disney cruise back in 2012. And I know I've talked about this a little bit before. We went with Lou Mangello. It was a group cruise, so we were part of the WW Radio group that was on the cruise, and Richard Sherman was the special guest on the cruise. And we got a private performance with Richard Sherman as part of our cruise. So they got the theater on the ship and opened it up for just our group. They got him a piano and a microphone, and essentially, like, you got an hour have at it. Tell your stories, sing your songs. And it was the most amazing thing I have ever experienced. Ever, I think. Was hearing this man talk and tell these stories and talk about, how they came up with the idea of a spoonful of sugar when Richard's brother Robert, his son, came home one day and mentioned that they had gotten a polio vaccine at school, and his father asked him, "Well, did it hurt?" Because he just assumed it was a shot, and his son said, "No, they gave it to me on a cube of sugar, and I just popped it in my mouth and swallowed it." And that's where they came up with the idea of a spoonful of sugar. So, and then if you're, I don't know if most people know this, but Feed the Birds was Walt's favorite song on the entire planet. Well, not on the entire planet, but it was definitely his favorite song that the Sherman Brothers ever wrote. Robert and Richard, would be working, and they're part of the Walt Disney Studio, and Richard would talk about how he'd be in his office or their studio or whatever, working, and Walt would just come in and sit down and not really say anything, and he'd just kind of look at Richard and say, "Play it," asking him, and he knew exactly what Walt wanted to hear, and it was Feed the Birds. So and that's, for me, knowing that just makes that particular sequence of the movie all the more bittersweet. It's definitely one it's tough for me to watch. That's probably the hardest part of the movie for me to watch.
Agreed.
Yeah. Even without the knowledge of, this was Walt's favorite song. Just the whole idea of, it's saying to people, there are people out there less fortunate, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss them.
Yeah.
So you need to keep an eye out for those less fortunate, and remember that they're living creatures too, and need our love and affection and support. So, oh my.
Yep.
Very moving. I, as a Disney Parks fan, there are some great nods to it in the Disney Parks. There is a wooden leg with the name Smith on it at the train station in the Lost and Found at the Disney Parks.
What's the name of the other lake? We never find out.
Yeah.
So help me if it's Jones.
I could probably talk about this movie ad nauseum, but I don't want to. I don't want to take over the entire conversation. So, especially if I start getting more sentimental. So, someone else say something that hopefully won't make me cry.
All the scenes with Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Gold.
I have to say, as much as I love Mary Poppins, I love her character. I think Bart is my favorite character in the movie.
Yes.
I can never say why, but I was always when he was on the screen, I was always transfixed, always paying attention to what he was said, singing this. I don't know. Maybe I just had a really big crush on him when I was a kid.
That could be. And then the dad at the end. I mean, he kind of has the redemption. He realizes, hey, I do need to try to connect with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
and that's just as important, if not more so.
Yep.
Oh, and then the mom and the maids for a hoot.
I always love, like, at the end of Step in Time when they're in the house and the maid's like freaking out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
I don't think the maids get enough
credit.
enough attention, enough credit.
Yes.
No.
Those two put up with so much in the Banks household.
Oh, I know.
between the the nannies,
Yep.
them not being able to retain a nanny, and Mrs. Banks and her, not being home to watch her children because she's too busy to be part of the suffragette movement, which was not originally part of the movie. They had to write that song and add it in because the actress that plays Mrs. Banks thought that her role was a lot bigger than it originally was planned to be. So they ended up writing her a song.
And then the practice bombing thing.
Oh yes, Admiral Boom.
Yes. Having to prepare the vase, hold this, hold that. Oh yes, and Mary Poppins and her carpet bag, and yeah, I can buy the theory that she's a time lady. Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then where else are you going to get the measuring tape like that?
Well, it's obvious that her bag is bigger on the inside.
Exactly. I mean, the lamp, the mirror, the coat rack. You can't tell
I
me one of those
totally
things
would.
aren't sonic somewhere. I mean, and just the snap and everything moves. I mean, come on. And I would have loved to have known a little more backstory with Bert and Mary. It seems like they've crossed paths once before.
Yeah.
Well, and then the scene was with Bert's uncle,
Yeah.
where they both, the more they laugh, they go floating up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, liking it, but how?
Well, apparently, Ed Wynn, who played the uncle, that a lot of that was improvised. At least his stuff was improvised.
I could see it.
Same.
Because I can't remember what other Disney live action movie I've seen, but Edwin's been in a few of them. And I mean, he's always a scene stealer.
Mm-hmm.
And it lives up to the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's see here. Some more factoids, at least according to the internet. So they're all true.
Oh, totally.
Well, let's see. In the role of Bert, actors like Danny Kaye, Fred
Oh, wow.
Astaire, and even Cary Grant were briefly considered.
Wow.
Apparently, P.L. Travers wanted someone more British, or actually British. And she suggested actors like Richard Burton, Rex Harrison, Laurence
Ooh.
Olivier, Peter O'Toole, Peter Sellers, and Alec Guinness.
Ooh.
Can you imagine?
No,
Imagine Alec Guinness. Could you imagine
Obi-Wan?
young Obi-Wan
Kenobi
as Bert?
I could
That's
kind of
hard
see
to imagine.
I could kind of see Danny Kaye as Bert a little bit, but I have to say, Dick Van Dyke, that's him.
Like I read that he said that he thinks he as much as he loved that and like he was loved that part, he thought he was miscast or something. Where did I read that? Give me a second. I just read it too.
Well, he begged to get after he'd already been cast as Bert, but he was reading the script, he begged Walt to get cast to do the second part as Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, he did a good job as Mr. Dawson because when I was younger, I never knew that was Dick Van Dyke.
Same.
Yeah.
But now I can
It tells you in
see
the credits if you pay attention.
Hey, I was young.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to the rolling.
To credits when I was like 6.
I know.
Yeah, when the credits came up, I hit stop and rewind.
Yeah.
Yes. Same.
Let's see here.
Oh, here's something funny. The kids, they didn't tell the kids who was acting as Mr. Darcy Sr., and they were worried that the old man was going to fall down and die at any moment.
That's funny. Has anyone been able to see it on Broadway?
I did. I got to see it for my 21st birthday. It was
nice.
Amazing.
Is it?
And like the cast, like I couldn't tell you who did it. This was 2011, and like I don't really know too many Broadway like actors. Like I don't know the names, but they were all amazing. The person who played Bart, though, like he, like if I didn't know better, I would have thought he was like Dick Van Dyke or very similar because he looked and sounded just like him. I was like, holy cow!
Nice. Yeah, that's one of those ones that I would love to see on stage.
Yeah, it was amazing. One of my favorite scenes, both in the movie and in the Broadway play, was Step in Time. And what was really neat is in the play, the Bart, he was like climbing up the stage. Why am I drawing a blank on that name? Like he was like going up the wall type and on the ceiling, which was so cool. Like obviously there was wiring and you could see it, but it was still really cool. And at the very end, Mary Poppins flew away on her umbrella up into like into the stand, the seating. I cannot think today, but that was really cool. I definitely recommend if you have a chance to see any play production of it. I recommend going. It's not on Broadway itself anymore. I don't think.
No, I don't think it is, but
but somewhere there's bound to be a place somewhere of it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Let's see here.
Like, trying to think. It's like, I don't know, there's so much to say about this, but I don't know. Like, one of my earliest memories is my sister and I would, like, make a little nest in, like, our playroom, and we would tend to watch Disney movies, and Mary Poppins was definitely one of ones that we watched all the time.
And show of virtual hands. How many of you did chalk drawings and tried to hop into them? This girl right here.
Even though my chalk drawings look nothing like Bart's.
Yeah, no kidding. Those were works of art. My goodness. The art department outdid themselves with that.
That's like definitely what got me, like, to this day. I love watching artists like do chalk things. Like, I see them on YouTube.
Yeah. Or even somebody will post on Facebook these amazing chalk 3D drawings that
Oh
are in the middle
yeah.
of towns.
Like,
Oh, wow.
if I was walking by them, I would definitely be doing a double take. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
I need to double check, but I think. It's still. Should pull this up sooner. I didn't think of it. Trying to see if it is still on the AFI list. I don't think it is. Sound of Music is, which is what Julie understood right after.
Right. I'm surprised
She ended up
that,
getting the job for Sound of Music because of this movie.
I'm surprised that if it's not on the list, it should be.
It's not on the 2007 list.
Okay.
I believe it was on the 1997 list and got bumped.
Aww.
What?
I believe. I can find it. I can't find it. I can't find it now. I think it was on the 1997 list and got bumped, but I could be wrong. It's definitely not on the 2007 list, though, because there's 6 musicals on the 2007 list. That is not one of them. So, The Sound of Music is, which I don't care for The Sound of Music. I'm so sorry. I know some people, that's another one that they watch at Christmas time, which I don't understand why that's and why a few of my favorite things is played at Christmas time, but yeah, the next time around, if they vote, Mary Poppins definitely needs to be considered put on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely should be considered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, nope, it's not on the 97, 98 list either. I know I saw it. So it may have been on the vote on the ballot, I think. Maybe that's where I saw it. It was an option to vote for in the 400 movies that could be voted for. Because I would have been like, oh, I'd vote for that one. We definitely need to, that's definitely going to be a discussion. So at some point is, until they decide to do the list again, I would love for us to look at the ballot that was utilized last time around and talk about the ones that didn't get included based on the votes. So
I thought that'd be a cool topic.
yeah. Oh.
So here's an interesting fact I'm reading for apparently Emily Blunt, who's playing Mary Poppins in Mary Poppins Returns, was also pregnant, and the movie had to postpone to accommodate her pregnancy as well. It's like, well, that's I like how that worked.
That's interesting. So apparently, if you potentially could play Mary Poppins, you might need to know that you might have to have a baby first.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I'm excited to see Mary Poppins Returns. I'm very excited. So it's what bit we've seen in the trailers, it just looks like it's just going to be a smashing good time. So, and I like that they haven't really given us a whole lot in the music in the trailers. So you can get the soundtrack now. The soundtrack is available, so it's like if you really want to spoil yourself on the music, you can. But I like that they haven't really given us a whole lot as far as the actual music. Like obviously we've seen like short clips from what are obviously musical numbers. We see Dick Van Dyke dancing, they're in, the whole live action animated mixed thing again, which I'm sure involves a lot of music and singing and dancing. But I like the fact that the music is for the most part going to be a surprise. So, and I'm sure there will be tears. I'm probably going to get sentimental.
Same.
But make sure I have tissues with me when I go to the movies. So
I can just picture when I go with my family, like my grandmother, my sister, and I are probably going to go, teary-eyed. And then my little niece will be like, what is wrong with you guys?
Like, you don't understand. It's Mary Poppins. This is the best thing ever. I do hope and wonder and hope that if this does well, which it should, that maybe that we'll see more. It's only taken 50 years to get a sequel.
Apparently it's the longest gap between live action movie and its sequel.
I believe it.
I wouldn't mind it being like, there's how many books in the series?
8.
I haven't read any of the books. I probably should.
Yeah.
So I don't like know how close the movie was to the books.
Not terribly. Like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes. But actually,
Or how close this one would be to the books.
what YouTube channel is it? Is it Cinema Sins? I think they just posted over the weekend, earlier this week. They have a whole series of videos they do. What's called "What's the Difference," where they will take a movie that's from a book and talk about the similarities and differences. And they just did Mary Poppins. I will put a link to that in the show notes, and so you can find out for yourself. Obviously, they don't go super in depth, but they do enough.
I did.
And it might wet your whistle to actually read the books.
I didn't realize like how not new, but like I knew the first one was gonna be like in the 30s or something like that, like 30s, 40s. But the last book was 88.
Okay.
Like I didn't realize that. Like the first book was 34. Huh. Apparently the third book is called Mary Poppins Opens the Door.
Opens the door to what?
Yeah, really. Say when Mary Poppins opens a door, it's not just opening a door.
Ooh, no. Another dimension entirely.
Again, time lady.
Exactly.
Oh, and I have not watched it yet, but I saw that Honest Trailers just posted an Honest trailer for the original Mary Poppins.
Oh, that should be interesting.
I saw it in
Honest
my
Trailers.
feed earlier. I just haven't had a chance to watch it. So
Yeah. There's a clip called Scary Mary. It's just a mash of what if it was a horror movie. Not too scary, but it's actually kind of interesting and cool. It's like, okay, you kind of look at it,
Yeah. Which in theory could have been, from what I understand with the books, that may be more accurate, because I guess Mary Poppins in the books, she's very cold. She's not the rosy cheeks, jolly nanny that we all know and love.
Which that's just interesting to me. Like, huh.
Yeah. I can't imagine Julie Andrews, though, being cold and cruel. No. They definitely would have had to hire somebody else. So. Anything else about Mary Poppins?
I'm looking forward to the new movie.
Me too.
Me too.
We don't get Star Wars this Christmas. We get Mary Poppins instead, and I'm actually okay with that.
Yep.
Same. I mean, either way, it's Disney's getting all money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I'm not complaining whatsoever, I promise.
Neither are they.
No.
That's certainly true.
Oh, trust me, Disney is not complaining at all. Oh. All right. Well, of our listeners, if you go see Mary Poppins over the holidays and want to give your 2 cents, or you want to give your 2 cents about the original Mary Poppins films, or you've seen Mary Poppins on stage, or you've met Mary Poppins. She's a meetable character at the Disney parks. So is Bert, although I've never actually got to meet Bert. I've never seen him out, but I've seen Mary out. Or you've met Dick Van Dyke. I don't know. You can send
Any
us
or all of the above.
any or all the above. You got Dick Van Dyke's phone number, or email address. Let us know. I'd love to have him on the show. Dreams can come true. Yeah, I got a friend that's got a Disney podcast. He's working on trying to get Lin-Manuel Miranda on. So things can happen. Or if you want, I'll put a link to. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I will also put a link in the show notes to Lou Mangello had Dame Julie Andrews, on the WW radio show. This was years ago. And I know the episode he just posted for this week is his talking to, because he went to the press junket out in California for Mary Poppins Returns. So he's got some interviews with some of the cast and crew, including probably Lin-Manuel Miranda, knowing Lou, Mr. Celebrity Magnet. He's worse than I am sometimes. Anyway.
We love you, Lou.
Yeah. So if you want to send us feedback or check out any of those links in the show notes, the easiest way is to go to our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com. From there, you can send us an email, hit us up on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter. I will be tweeting and posting pictures at PopCon Fort Wayne at the end of the month. So that should be exciting. Oh, speaking of PopCon Fort Wayne, the panel schedule is on their website. It's not completely fleshed out yet. My panel is on there, but at this point, things could be subject to change. So again, stay tuned to social media as we get closer. And I know things are actually locked down. I will post on social media the date and time and location of the panel I am doing for PopCon Fort Wayne. So again, social media is your friend. Also, on our website, you can find links to the Goodreads Book Club. So over there, we read Doctor Who related books and then discuss them on Goodreads. So you can go vote for book for the next month and then join in the discussion in this month's book. Yeah. So there is that. You can also find links to our Amazon affiliate link. So if you're doing any last minute Christmas shopping, you've got a week. As we're recording this, you better get to it. You might need to use that Amazon Prime, that free 2-day shipping. But we have our Amazon affiliate link. So you click on that. You can shop on Amazon and we just get a small kickback from Amazon. It doesn't cost you any more. We also have the link to our Patreon. So if you want to support us that way, we are very grateful to all our Patreon supporters. There's also a link to our merchandise. I have added some new designs that are not our logo. So if you want something that's not our logo or you want something with our logo, you can go to our merch, which is on Redbubble. The link for that is also on our website. So this has been fun. It has been quite the year.
Yes, it is.
As Brittany was saying earlier, the new year is in 2 weeks.
Hard to believe.
Yes. So it is. It's a bit weird for us to be like signing off for the year this early, but just the way that the holidays fall on the days of the week, the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to ask anyone to give up time with their friends and family to do this show. Family is first when it comes to this podcast. That and health. Which is why we're recording on Tuesday and not Monday. So we hope that everyone who celebrates has a safe and happy Christmas and a very safe and happy New Year. And we will be back in the new year to talk Doctor Who and do the fandom year in review. And we've got a lot to talk about from 2018. I need to start working on the list now. I'm almost kind of glad that we're not doing shows for the next couple of weeks, because it's going to take me a little bit of time to go through the Facebook timeline to remind myself of
And
what
have
has happened
tissues at
in
the
20.
ready.
Yes. Yeah, all the 10 o'clock news and cancellations and movies that left us crying and looking at you, Thanos.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that, we shall sign off for this week and for 2018, unless something drastic happens. Knock on wood that nothing does.
Yeah. Oosh.
I know we're playing with fire here.
Indeed.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is Brittany and Bethlehem saying goodnight.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana, saying Happy New Year, everybody. I hope it is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Don't ask me to say that backwards.
Good, I wasn't going to ask you.
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefivishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review on iTunes. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.